Hello everybody, Tyrone TG3 here, Pocket Monster, Horizons, episode, a lot of episodes actually, episode 85, 86, 87, 88, and 89. These episodes are titled Arrival, The Paradise of Lakua. I'm going to say Lakua, but I think it's Rakua. I've been saying Rakua this whole time, so I'm going to stick with Rakua, but I think it's one of those Japanese LR things. So the title says Lakua, but I'm going to say Rakua. Anyway, episode 86, The Rising Voltaclers versus the Explorers, which I'm surprised we haven't had an episode called that already. Episode 87, The Guidance of the Black Rayquaza. Episode 88, The White Zygarde Causes Shockwaves. And finally, episode 89, At the End of the Adventure. So, the finale, ladies and gentlemen, of the current series. Lot has happened. Lot of fun things. Lot of great things. Lot of memorable things. Definitely a good finale, if I do say so myself. Some things, but we'll talk about those when we talk about those. So let's get the least, I don't want to say the least interesting episode, but obviously it's the calm before the storm episode. Free, Dot, Liko, Roy all make it to Rakua. And it is a very calm area, very nice, very tranquil. It has not only regular Pokemon, rare Pokemon, all living together with legendary Pokemon. It is a harmonious Paradiso. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not really much. I'm not really a big fan of like utopian areas. Like, oh, this place is absolutely perfect. I'm not. I guess in realistic terms, if we're talking about just nature, then there's going to be no conflict because that realistically, how can there be, with the exception of like the occasional animal fighting? But this is Pokemon, so they're obviously not going to put that. Rakua as a place, if you rip it out, is just sort of, it's very clear this was a backdrop for the climactic battle. But if you break it down as a place, it's not that interesting to me. It is literally just, okay, it's a Pokemon paradise. Well, what defines a Pokemon paradise? An open field, generically, with high mountains where all the Pokemon can eat and live peacefully without humans. Okay, how is that any different than some generic forest, though? Like, I don't know. I feel like a forest with a river stream can do just as much as Rakua is doing right now. I'm not trying to knock Rakua, because obviously they've been trying, like, Liko's ancestors and everything, they've been doing research on this for years to get to this paradise. But if you look at it for, like, more than a second, right, it comes very clear this is just some place. Like, nothing really special about it. It's just some place. Obviously, there's more to it when you go deep inside. But even then, we're going to learn very quickly that's not part of Rakua. That's just a supernatural force of nature that happens to grow on a paradise place. Anyway, Liko, Dot, Roy, and Freed all end up traveling even further. And we learn that Terapagos has the power to negate some of the crystals that are blocking the way. So because of that, they're able to advance even further forward. And we learn a little bit more backstory on Lucius. We learn more about Risto. We learn more about Gideon. We can see that Team Explorer actually has a base already hidden out there that Liko actually noticed earlier, but didn't pay it any mind for real. But as we continue, we see that they are already stationed there, and Free tells them to go ahead and move ahead while he goes to look for more clues and evidence, more connecting dots. While that happens, Liko, Roy, and Dai end up meeting with Onyx, Agat, and Sango. And then Spinel meets with Free. After that, we move on to our next episode, which is the Explorers versus the Rising Voltaclers. All-out battles, 4v4. Honestly, I love these battles. At least I love Freed. I always love when Freed and Spinel fight. Like, Freed and Spinel always have the best battles. The thing I love about Pokemon Horizons really takes advantage of resource battling, where it's not just about strength, it's about what Pokemon has this ability, how are they fighting. Spinel's strategies are a power scaler's nightmare, because power scalers only measure things as to this Pokemon's strong enough to do this Pokemon's strong enough to blah 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 blah. He shouldn't be able to no diff single match, but like, stupid modern talk that doesn't require much thought. Spinel literally does unorthodox moves that go into a strategy, and I love that because it shuts a power scaler up. And you know how I feel about power scalers. So, for example, in the fight, Freed uses Charizard. It's a double battle. Freed uses Charizard and Pikachu. Spinel uses Beheem and Umbreon. In the fight, I love that Freed has Pikachu go in, but when he does that, Spinel has Beheem use Thunderbolt on purpose, only to figure out what Pikachu's ability is. Turns out Pikachu has Lightning Rod as an ability. And that works for Spinel's situation, not Freeze. It's weird. Because then Beheem winds up using the move, ends up using Skill Swap. So because he uses Skill Swap, now Beheem has Lightning Rod, and Pikachu has an ability that we won't state right now. But this works in their advantage. It means that Captain Pikachu can't do most of its moves. It can't use Thunder Punch, it can't use Volt Tackle. All it can really use is Double Team. For some reason, Horizons has gone this long without giving Captain Pikachu a fourth move. I don't know why. Very unorthodox, very weird for them to do that, but I don't know. It's very jarring. That's the only thing about this battle that really bugs me. This is the one fight I think realistically should have given Captain Pikachu another move. It would have been fine to give him I don't know, Brick Break or something. Get Slam, Iron Tail. The fact that this thing to this day only knows Volt Tackle, Double Team, it probably knows Terra Blast. That's probably why too. It probably knows Terra Blast because Captain Pikachu is supposed to be part flying. Well, it's supposed to be a Terra flying. At least that's the theory. We've never seen Captain Pikachu terrestrialize yet, so we're only going off speculation. I would not doubt its ability to be Terra Blast flying. I think that's the only logical step we can go. But that's speculation, not what happened in the episode. Anyway, Pikachu's useless for some of the fight until Captain Pikachu winds up with an idea. In the fight, Charizard is going off against Umbreon, and Umbreon's faster, so Charizard isn't able to get much in on it. But then Free goes ahead and tells Charizard to terrestrialize into a dark type. Once he does that, he uses Terra Blast, and Pikachu winds up leading them in by grouping them together. Captain Pikachu uses Thunderbolt on Umbreon, but it's a ploy so that Beheem can jump in and absorb it with Lightning Rod. But that was a ploy just to get them both into one spot, so that they all get hit. All three of them get hit, or else they would have gotten hit. Umbreon and Beheem take heavy damage. Beheem gets knocked out because it's weak against dark types. Pikachu, on the other hand, is unfazed. Why? Because Beheem's ability was telepathy, which means it can't be hurt by its partner's attacks. But because Beheem used Skill Swap, Pikachu has the telepathy ability now, not Beheem. That's smart. I like that strategy. That is a good strategy. I love that. I love that. My only downside with Pokemon Horizons when it comes to cool strategic battles like this, I wish they had X and Y's animation style to match with the strategic battling of Horizons. Could you imagine the art/animation style of XY combined with the strategy battling of Horizons would be a match made in heaven. I guarantee you Horizons would be shooting through the roof in terms of quality if it had that. Most of the battles in Horizons, sadly, only a handful of battles look really, really good, while most of the battles sadly look like stock battles. Yeah, just generic. The Pokemon's using an attack and their body slightly moves, and And that's not to say that it's always, but Horizons really mostly had its glow up during the start. During like I want to say the first first two episodes, battles looked really smooth in those. And then sadly, after that, we get the occasional good looking fight. Anyway, we move on to Liko, Roy, and Dot's fights. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really care for the kids' fights. Only because, like, a lot of those fights were won out of just attrition. I think Dot was the only one that really had a strategy going, and the strategy was simple. Use Aqua Cutter in order to make water show up on the battlefield to throw off Medicham. At first it didn't work because Medicham has like excellent balance, but then eventually it did work because of distractions from other fights. The problem is also it's a 3v3, but they're not using each other for real at all. Like, there's never a point where Liko and Roy switch partners and fight off against, like, Liko fights off against Screamtail, and Roy fights off against, Garganackle. Or we never see like Quaxwell switch opponents to like Screamtail. We never really see any switch up. They're all just fighting their designated opponents. So it's like it's a 3v3, but realistically it's a 1v1 just happening 3 times. I realistically think they should have switched it up. I think some fun little combos would have happened. I think some fun little like uses of mons, but it doesn't happen a lot, and it feels very stale. It's mostly just fight your designated person, and Liko's designated person apparently is Onyx, and Agat fights Dot, and Sango always fights Roy. Like, it's never a switch up. It's just the same. And Sango ends up losing mostly because she's using a Pokemon that doesn't have much experience fighting either. She's literally using Stringtail, a Pokemon that she just caught, versus using Glalie, which would have been better in the fight just off experience. Yeah, Crocolore is like has a type advantage, but Sango's more used to fighting with Glalie's chaotic like explosion style, rather than Screamtail's like screaming style. Roy wins the fight, but it's mostly just because of attrition. It's literally Screamtail winds up using like Boom Burst, and then Crocolore ends up using Disarming Voice, but for some reason Disarming Voice beats the Boom Burst, despite the fact that Screamtail should be like just stronger than it. But it really doesn't matter because, again, less experience from a wild Pokemon that just got caught. And they do point that out, too. They literally say it. I believe they also do it sucks because at the beginning, I remember Garganackle does like the wide guard ability to block against Boom Burst. I'm like, that's a good strategy that they used all 3 of their like things going for them. And sadly, we don't really see that again. Once the fight starts and like kicks it into high gear, it's mostly just a grudge match for 1v1v1. And Floragato wins because Floragato has to win, I guess. I can't really explain it. She uses Floragato's Sucker Punch and just sort of fakes out Garganackle. And I guess because Garganackle weighs a lot, it was able to get thrown off. They win the fight. I don't have enough patience for this one. It's a very underwhelming battle. I'm gonna be honest, like Liko against Onyx isn't normally a great fight. Even when it happened the first time around, it's mostly just a generic battle that doesn't really have much going for it. But yeah, and while that's happening, they're still being distracted, but the Raccoon has like activated, and Gibeon is already releasing White Zygarde. So they have no choice but to get back to the middle area. And Liko, Roy, and Dot are able to go through because Amathio's allies come in and sort of like block off the shot. They serve as a distraction so Liko, Roy, and Dot can progress further. After that, Amathio shows up with Gibeon to warn him that he's going to be betrayed. And Gibeon's like, nah, Spino's for the cause. And then after that point, it's very clear they launch these like 3 machines that are using Magnezone's electricity, and they're all meant to like lift the Raccoon out of the ground, and Zygarde digs up the Raccoon. Liko, Roy, and Dot meet up with Freed, and at this point it's very clear Zygarde releases the Raccoon on purpose, but it's only because Lucius's body has been sealed inside this thing for like 100 years. So Lucius is like free again. He's back. and joined with everybody else. And at this point, it's very clear a bigger battle is about to start. Now, Agat, Sango, and Onyx are defending the machines so that they can stop them from, releasing the Requiem. So while they're being distracted, these 6 heroes end up putting their energy to Terapagos so Terapagos can use its ultimate attack. While that's all happening, White Zygarde goes in to try to destroy them, but Liko, Roy, Dot, and Amethyl all go in together in order to fight off against White Zygarde. While literally all of this is happening, it's just a giant battle. At this point, it's a giant battle. And they approach this battle the same way they've been approaching a lot of battles, where Dot's trying to figure out what weaknesses Zygarde has. They serve as support while Crocalore's the main attacker because it knows Disarming Voice. Amethyl uses Ceruledge in order to get them into quick escape spots because of Shadow Force. I like the way that they are being used as a team, even though Amethyl's the new addition to the team. And I like their battle style. Zygarde is just really strong though. And again, I wish the animation would reflect that. It's a good fight. I want to say that. But the animation's not really reflecting that. Zygarde knows all the Zygarde moves, 1,000 Arrows, Core Smasher. He knows all these cool Zygarde attacks. Sadly, the animation's not really reflecting that. For example, remember when Bonnie told Perfect Zygarde or 100% Zygarde to basically use Core Smash, and it was this cool little Z that went in the ground and causes huge explosion. Here, it's just a lame little beam that can make the Z, but it's whatever. Then the 1,000 Arrows shoots down, and they find a weakness that after it uses 1,000 Arrows, the cells have to regroup, so they choose in that moment to attack. But unfortunately, it winds up using another move that causes it, the ground wave or whatever, in order to release more cells. At this point, it's just a giant wall they can't really break through. Zygarde ends up knocking out every last Pokemon too. It's rough. They are going through it. It's basically just a war at this point, and everybody's not doing great. It's rough for every end. Florgato and Liko are the only ones left. They're the only ones standing. Everybody else is all wiped out. Zygarde ends up attacking, and Florgato ends up using Magical Leaf. So it's this very losing battle, one of those beam struggles where it's very clear the heroes are about to lose. And it's crazy. It's very clear they're about to get wiped out. It's coming down to the wire. And then suddenly we move to our next episode, and we move in, and Florgato ends up evolving into Meowscarada. And because it evolves into Meowscarada, it gets an extra boost on that Magical Leaf. Is that strong enough in order to beat Zygarde's, one of his stronger attacks? I don't know. Frankly, I don't care. I guess the idea here is that it's a ground type move against a grass type attack that just got a boost. And you also got to count Meowscarada did get the Overgrow ability, which means it's even stronger now. So I'll let it pass. And it doesn't hit Zygarde. It sort of just cancels out. So that's fair. I like to believe that's fair. That's fair. And when it evolves into Meowscarada, it does end up getting a nice hit in. It uses Acrobatics. And then right after that, it uses Flower Trick, the new signature move that only it can use. And because of that, it gets it does some nice damage. It does nice damage and brings White Zygarde down. And it makes sense because of all the collective fighting it's been doing against a bunch of Pokemon at that point. And it's really sad to see because at the beginning of the fight, Zygarde betrayed Gibeon on purpose. He wanted to release Lucius. And he did that because he knew that everything about the Requiem was just completely out of order. We learned that the Requiem is this substance that's not even supposed to be on Earth. That's why Zygarde had so much problems against it even 100 years ago. The Requiem is a substance that comes from space. I'm not sure if they're going to follow up on that or not, but it comes from space. And because it comes from space, it is an unnatural thing that just happened to land on Rakua and give it power. That power has lifted the island up and has allowed the Pokemon to live in harmony for all this time and probably extended their life periods and did all that, but it did it subtly. It was very like gradual with it, and it didn't really cause much harm because it was mostly like subdued. Here, once it's dug up, it's like releasing a bunch of energy. So much, it's almost like an overdose. And that overdose will cause Pokemon to go crazy. It'll cause disruptions to happen. It'll start growing out of control. It's chaotic. So in order to prevent it from causing all that disorder, White Zygarde wanted it gone. But that went against what Gibeon wanted. But Gibeon pleads with Zygarde to at least fight with it. He's like, yo, we don't see eye to eye on the Raccoon, but you're my partner, and you're literally like the last thing that's attaching me to this earth that hasn't betrayed me yet. My grandson's betrayed me. Everybody's betrayed me. Ristal's betrayed me. Lucius has betrayed me. My friends have betrayed me and my family. At this point, Zygarde, you're all I got. Please, at least let me fight these kids. And Zygarde's like, alright. I can't even explain it any better than that. Zygarde literally looks at the situation and goes, alright. And that's what happens. And I guess that digs into a little bit of a nuance of the mind of a Pokemon, for example. How loyal is a Pokemon to its trainer to a degree? Psychologically, even when a Pokemon doesn't want something to happen, at least in this world, it has the right to disobey trainers. We've seen it happen before. We've seen Pokemon not want to fight. We've seen Pokemon deliberately not want to harm another person, even under the command of somebody. We've seen Pokemon make the active decision to disobey their trainers. We've seen Pokemon that are loyal to their trainers to a fault. So what exactly is the nuance behind this connection of Zygarde and Gibeon? We don't really know how Zygarde and Gibeon were before they joined the Explorers years ago, so we don't really have any context of that. But I'm guessing Zygarde's just been with Gibeon for years, for tons of years, and has been raised since it was a Zygarde cell, maybe, cared individually, and then grouped up. But again, we don't really have that context. Speaking of context, Hamber has a Zygarde cell that trusts him, and I don't know if the show's going to do anything with that. But anyway, point being, after all of that said and done, the battle goes on, and thanks to the efforts of Liko and Meowscarada, Amethyst and Ceruledge are able to jump back into the game too. And like I said, combined with all of this, Zygarde finally loses. It dissipates into a bunch of little cells and retreats from the fight. Gibeon basically has nothing left. Terapagos has enough time to charge power from the 6 heroes and is able to eradicate the Raccoon. It literally it transforms into the 3rd form, which is the Terra form, and basically destroys the Raccoon. Eradicates all of it. It's gone. With no Raccoon, that means that both Lucius and Gibeon have no more life support to keep them going. It also means that the Rakua is probably breaking apart due to the power imbalance, so it's gone. All of this is gone, which means that Lucius and Gibeon have to go back to rest. They are finally going to meet up with Ristal in heaven. I mean, not Gibeon. Gibeon's done like tons of crimes. Wouldn't he go to? It doesn't matter. They're going to the afterlife. Amethyst has one talk with Gibeon that changes Gibeon's mindset. But obviously the crimes he's done, man. Those are. Obviously, I know they can't do this, but I would love if Lucius had just like glittered away, like it's the sparkles come and he disappears. But Gibeon looks at Amethyst and he like bursts into flames, and then like the fire goes out. It's very clear they both went to completely different areas. Anyway, the island's falling apart, or the Rakua's falling apart. They've got to run their way back. Unfortunately, due to the construction of the destruction, Liko ends up dropping not only the belt Lucius had, but also all of Lucius's files. They're gone. Like, there's no record of Lucius or his history. It's very sad when you think about it. But thankfully, Freed does say some words that more or less can kind of remedy that. He's like, look, we still remember what happened, and that's important. Like, the knowledge that we have of the events, while it may not be Freed's, may not be Lucius's research, your memories are just as treasured, so you can use those. And at that point, they're able to keep running forward. Also, all 6 of the heroes, the 6 hero Pokemon, are no longer under the ownership of Lucius, because Lucius is dead. And that answers the question, actually. I'm glad that Pokemon Horizons actually answered that question I had about what the longevity is of a Pokemon's ownership. When a trainer dies, the Pokemon gets released. All right, cool. Thank you for answering that. I was wondering that. I'm glad that actually got answered. So good. We know that now. Now, there's some Pokemon episodes from the past series that ignore that rule, but that series is widely inconsistent, so that's okay. Lucius no longer owns those Pokemon, and again, that answers that question. I'm glad they answered that question too. They're just wild Pokemon now. Neat. Well, I would say neat, but Spinel takes advantage of this and captures them all by inflecting them all with Requiem energy, which means probably when they go to fight those 6 heroes again, they'll be crazy. They'll be like hocked up on Requiem energy. And he captured basically all of them except Black Rayquaza. Rayquaza, I think, was the only one that was able to resist the Requiem. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing because Roy probably caught it. But again, technically Roy didn't own it. It was still Lucius's. I guess it just has more willpower. I don't know. Anyway, Terapagos gets in its Pokeball. All the Pokemon go back in their Pokeballs. But we'll see later that Terapagos won't come out of its Pokeball. The rest of the Pokemon will, though. Anyway, while escaping, they meet up with the brave Asagi. And it's flying up to them. And they answer the question. It can't fly up there because of the altitude. So they connected that dot. I'm glad that they're actually paying attention to what they wrote. That's good. They press the button, push the button, and when they press it, it turns into what's known as the Affinity Rising form. Basically, it's a form that allows it to be able to be more stable in higher altitudes, but it comes at a cost. It's using a crap load of rocket fuel. So they shoot up there, they grab Freed and the others, and the wind current from them being so high up is so intense, it's blowing everybody away. Freed is able to save everybody, including Captain Pikachu, but unfortunately him and Charizard get blown away in the wind, and they are presumed dead. So rip in peace, Freed. Yep. Obviously we don't know that, but for now they are dead. Which Liko says that was the last major vision she had of their adventures. Obviously it's not. But we then move forward a year. A year has passed. Spinel owns the Exceeds Corporation. He framed the Rising Voltaclers for the events that happened in Rakua. So now the Rising Voltaclers are basically runaway criminals. He basically has control of all 6 of the heroes except for Rayquaza. Spinel's a top tier villain. Jesus Christ, this dude is on. This dude's dangerous. He surpassed Gibeon. It's scary to think about. As we cut to Liko, Dot, and Roy, though, Roy apparently went away to Kalos for a year and didn't evolve his Crocodile. And wound up with a Lucario for some reason. So after that, Liko records all the information that happened to them over that last year. Looks like Liko went back to school too, which I guess that was the safest route. It's so she won't be labeled a criminal, so yay. She went to school. Dot probably just focused on streaming because realistically that's all she can do at that point. It's to keep a low profile. Yeah, a year has passed. And because that year has passed, we jump into the new generation of things, which will be Pocket Monster Horizons. Mega Voltage! So, that'll be episode 50 of Pokemon Horizons. If I had to give the Rakua Saga a rating, I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10. I think it earns it. It earns a 9 out of 10. Oh, hold on, step back a little bit. 8.5 out of 10. I'm not giving it the 9 because I love the battles. I do love the battles. I love the climax. I love all of it. But quality means of things too, and aesthetics can be almost just as important as writing and plot if done correctly. The battle against Zygarde did not look as visually pleasing as it should have. And I really did wish that, like, Rayquaza had fought against Zygarde first. I think Rayquaza should have fought against Zygarde first. And, like, a battle between... Like, I think Lucius and Gideon should have fought each other a little bit first. And then Terapagos thinks of the idea to have all 6 of the heroes get together. So then Lucius will be like, okay, we're on standby. Liko, Roy, Dot, Amethyst, I'm trusting you all to take care of Gideon and Zygarde and stuff. That would have been fine. Because then we would have got our Zygarde versus Rayquaza fight that was actually in the opening. And then that would have made a lot more sense where, like, oh, okay, I can believe a little bit more that Zygarde is injured or at least weakened from the fight against Rayquaza. So now it's got to fight 4 more Pokemon. Then, 1, that makes Zygarde look stronger. And 2, that would make a bit more sense for Liko, Roy, and Dot and Amethyst to hold their own against a freaking legendary Pokemon. But that's fine. I'm still okay with the results. Again, I wish we had that, like, XYZ quality of battling in terms of animation and art style. Combine that with that, it would have been a really damn good fight. It's an okay fight, but overall, that's just it. It's okay. Climactically and narratively, it's a good fight. I will give it that. I'm not going to dismiss that. But it is a standard battle. It's a standard boss battle that weirdly I think should have looked better than what it looked like. But with that being said, overall, I love the way the plot threads ended. I'm not sure what's up with the rest of the explorers. Did they choose to follow Spinel or did they quit? I don't know. They might have, but we won't know until the future. So with that being said, obviously, if you haven't already, go check out my video that I made yesterday involving the new poster of the time skip and the speculations and things that have happened. Overall, yeah, we're reaching a time skip, a new era, and I'll be commenting on that a lot more in episode 50's review when we jump into that. And that episode is titled "To the Skies Once More." So that is episode 50. I will be catching you all on that. I'll see y'all then, everybody. Tyrone TG3 out.